All right, it's 9:30, so we are going to go ahead and get started today. Welcome and thank you all for joining us this morning for today's monthly brief. Most of you on the line know me. My name is Jessica Hazelton, and I am the Executive Director of IRTA. Today, I'm going to be joined by IRTA's Comptroller, Erica Pinkley. Today's topic is Train the Treasurer, and Erica is going to provide some key tips and essential do's and don'ts and other information for local unit treasurers and other leaders. Today's session will be recorded and it will be made available on IRTA's website in the members only section. We have been putting information like this under a new heading in the members only section that is titled Member Educational Library. So in the coming days, you will be able to find the recorded version of today's event in that area. I also shared a link to the local treasurer's handbook that is also available on IRTA's website in the members only section that I mentioned. I threw that up in the chat, so you should be able to access that document, and you can view it either via the website, or you can download it and save it to your own device. We will answer questions this morning in real time as they come in. I just ask you to be mindful of asking the questions. Don't be talking over each other if we can prevent that. Try to be mindful to use the chat if you can, or raise your hand, and we will get to your question. Everyone is also going to be unmuted this morning, but if background noise at any of your locations becomes very loud, then we will ask you to mute yourself. So with that, I will turn it over to Erica.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Erica Pinkley, the Comptroller here. I have just celebrated my 5th year in January, so time flies by fast. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so here we go. The agenda today, I'm going to review some frequently asked questions and things that were discussed at last Train the Treasurer, since it's been 3 years since we've done one. We're going to look at the IRTA local treasurer available for your resource. We're going to go over a couple reminders, a couple new topics, and then take questions. I would like to say that the information given today is to serve only as a guideline for local unit treasurers or officers. This information does not have any legal backing. All forms provided are examples and are for illustration purposes only, and they could not reflect the most current version. IRTA is not liable for any financial actions of any local units. We are simply providing guidelines to be used for your local. For specific up-to-date information, please consult a CPA. So the first item for review, the difference between nonprofit status and tax exempt. They are two different things. Nonprofit status refers to incorporation status under state law, while tax exempt refers to incorporation status under federal law. You can be a nonprofit without being tax exempt, but you cannot be tax exempt without being a nonprofit. What does tax exempt mean? It simply means that your organization is exempt from paying federal corporate income tax. It also means that your donors get to take the tax deduction for their donations. If you have a nonprofit status, are you automatically tax exempt? No, you are not. To become tax exempt, you must apply for the tax exempt status, and it has to be approved by the IRS. Can your nonprofit make a profit at the end of the year? Yes, your income can absolutely exceed your expenses. The only thing that's different from a for-profit is that not an individual cannot take this profit. It has to be reinvested back in the organization for the purpose of the nonprofit. Will your nonprofit ever be audited by the IRS? It is possible. It is not likely since the size of the locals and the information we are dealing with. So it's not likely that you're going to get an audit unless you have a trigger or unless you're not filing your 990s for multiple years. What is more common, and which some of you may have received this, is a compliance check. The IRS is starting to do these more, and you will get this just the form of a letter mailed to you. They'll just ask you some simple questions about your organization. You'll mail that in. It usually takes a few months, and then you'll get a closing letter. So if anyone has had that, it does happen. Should your nonprofit have an independent audit? It is not a bad idea every few years, especially when there's a transition of treasurers or leadership, to have an audit or review done by a local accountant. It can give you transparency, accountability, and show you room for improvements.
Erica, we just got a question in the chat. Does a nonprofit have to pay taxes on CD earnings?
That depends, and we'll get here to a minute. If the earnings are over a certain dollar amount, and it makes your gross income over $5,000, then yes. But we'll cover here in a second the triggers for 990s. Are there any specific rules for giving scholarships? There are some rules for giving scholarships that the individual must meet so that the scholarship does not count as taxable income for them. Some of these things include the student will have to verify that the scholarship spent only on tuition, fees, or supplies. The student should be pursuing a degree. Your scholarship cannot benefit one particular person or family. So the applicant pool needs to be a wide variety where you can't pinpoint who the winner is going to be. All the scholarships awarded should be non-discriminatory, and the applicants should have high academic performance. So those are just some frequently asked questions. Now we've referred to the local treasurer's handbook. We have this resource available to you if you go to the members only section of the website under member educational library. And then you'll see right here, the Train the Treasurer. You can view it, download it. I recommend printing it out. There are some empty pages where you can put notes, you can write your passwords. And I think this is a really good tool to be passed along to the next treasurer. Often that information is lost, and it's really good to have. So I'm not going to go over the whole handbook. I just wanted to show you the table of contents so that you can see what all is located or what all is in this. So there's a page of information that you should obtain as a treasurer. This list of information will contain your constitution and bylaws. You need to have information on how your local dues are calculated, a historic, if your dues have increased, like historical dues activity. You want to have any budgets, reconciliations, prior year audits, and copies of your 990 filings. There's a couple pages of quick do's and don'ts of a treasurer. On the quick do's, you'll find things like make sure you're making your deposits in a timely manner, reconciling your bank accounts monthly, and filing those 990s on time. A couple don'ts on the page will include not spending money on activities that are not approved by your membership, and not making checks payable to yourself, and a list of other things. You'll find information about tax exempt status, how to apply for your tax exempt status if you don't have one, how to locate your FEIN number. On page 19, 20, and 21 is information all about the 990s. You'll find information about the due dates and a detailed guide of how to file your postcard. If you do not have a copy of your organization's tax exempt letter on hand, It's really a good idea to have one. And there's information on, I'm going to cover this in a second also, on how to obtain that tax exempt letter. If for some reason you don't file your 990 for 3 years in a row and your tax exempt status is revoked, I have detailed information on how to get that back. There's a skillage and knowledge checklist, all kinds of very good information. Couple reminders. So these are the items I was talking about that you should keep on hand to pass down to your next treasurer. How to get a copy of your organization's tax exempt letter. So if your organization was given a tax exempt status on after January 1st, 2014, you can simply go to this organization search and download a copy of your letter. If you received your status before 2014, the process is a little more lengthy, but it is still pretty easy. You fill out Form 4506A or send a letter to the IRS. It can take about 60 days to get a copy of that letter. So filing your 990 e-postcard. If your annual gross receipts are under $5,000 and you have never filed a 990 e-postcard before and your receipts continue to stay under $5,000, you are not required to file an annual return. Now, gross receipts, we're talking about any income received before you spend money on expenses. So if your receipts are under $5,000, you've never filed a return, you do not have to file one. If they were over $5,000 in previous years and you have ever filed a 990, but they are under $5,000 in a year after that, you still need to file that 990. So the IRS won't know that your gross receipts are under $5,000, they will just assume that you didn't file it. So if it's ever been filed before, you have to file all the years after that. If you file the 990 e-postcard, and it really is pretty simple, it takes about 10 minutes, you will not be penalized if you're not supposed to file it. So if you're unsure if your organization should file one, I would suggest go ahead and filing one just to be safe, since you're not going to receive a penalty for filing one if it's not needed. You must have an FEIN number to file. If your organization does not have one, then most likely you won't have to file. And there is a tool and links in the handbook where you can look up your FEIN number. So the 990 e-postcard is due every year by the 15th day and the 5th month after the close of your tax year. Most of your tax years will probably be calendar year, so that will make the due date May 15th. There's no penalty if it's late, but organizations that fail to file for 3 consecutive years will lose their tax exempt status, and it is pretty difficult to get it back. So again, for instructions on how to file this, refer to page 21 of this handbook. This is a list of information that you'll need to file your 990. Pretty basic, simple information: your FEIN number, the organization's legal name, any other name that your organization has gone by. They'll ask, has your organization ever been terminated or gone out of business? They'll ask if your gross receipts are normally under $50,000 or less, your mailing address, your web address, and it will ask the name, address, and social security number for one of your organization's principal officers. So what do you do if your tax exempt status has ever been revoked? And we've been seeing a lot of this lately. If it has been under 15 months, it's pretty easy. You fill out Form 1023-EZ, pay the user fee, and you'll most likely be reinstated. If it's longer than 15 months, you do that same process, but you have to provide a statement of reasonable cause. This is just kind of a brief description that tells why you missed the 3 years in a row, if you weren't sure that you should have filed it, if there was a change in leadership. So description of why. If you've ever lost your tax exempt status, gotten it back, and then lost it again, you're most likely not going to get it back again. we suggest that you hire an outside tax professional to help you with this. We want to keep our locals alive. However, if your local has to dissolve, we are here to help. Your organization is required by law to transfer all of your remaining assets to another tax-exempt organization. So the members can't just keep the money, they have to donate it to another tax-exempt organization. If you have a tax-exempt status, you file an Articles of Dissolution form. There is a link in the handbook. This is filed with the Secretary of State. You'll also want to submit a final 990 tax return, and there is a checkbox on that 990 to indicate that it is the final form. And then you want to withdraw from any state charitable solicitation registrations that your organization might have. If you don't have a tax-exempt status, you still need to send a letter to the IRS requesting termination of your FEIN number. There is a sample letter provided in the handbook for that. And then we do have a form in that handbook also. It's a voluntary form that you can just fill out to send to us, just so that we know that your local is no longer there. That brings us to the skills and knowledge checklist. This is in the back of the handbook. This is just a really good list to tell yourself what you need more information on, or if you have a good understanding. You can write notes over here. Do you understand your role as a unit? Do you understand the quick do's and don'ts? Do you know your FEIN number? Do you know if you need to file a 990? It's just a really good checklist. And that is the information I have for you today, and we are ready for questions.